Necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. We have a lot of necessity in our society today.
Welcome to Value Hunt and get ready to explore the world of Technoprobe, the Italian powerhouse revolutionizing the electronic circuits and semiconductor testing industry. Technoprobe's work resonates across industries like 5G, IoT, automotive, and many others. So stay tuned and let's get into their history, which is very exciting, and understand why they are market leaders and also their focus on specialization. So let's get into it. So I couldn't dismiss this idea. I like the industry, I like the numbers, I like the thesis, I like their position and management. Technoprobe produces and sells electronic circuits in Italy and internationally. The company also offers mechanical interfaces for the electrical contact of hybrid circuits and semiconductor devices. It designs, develops and produces probe cards for testing the operation of chips. Its products are used in digital data and 5G, IoT, data centers, automotive and self-driving cars, telecommunications and media, industry and aerospace, and consumer electronic applications. The company was founded in 1993 and is based in Cernusco, Lombardone, Italy. They operate in an industry where there is a virtual duopoly. The two biggest players are Technoprobe and Form Factor. The second one is bigger in terms of revenue but way less profitable and also selling other products other than probe cards, which makes Technoprobe even more specialized in a field where they are basically first movers and customer relationships are extremely important. Now let's go into what I look at first before I started digging into this company. Well, starting with the shareholders, there are no relevant investors I follow directly who are betting on this business and its management team. Also, there are no Value Investor Club write-ups on the business, which could be a red flag, but it could also be a sign that this stock is underfollowed, presenting a significant opportunity. Another possible red flag is that the company's IPO is recent, which may present a risk in terms of assessing the past performance of the business. However, I believe this is partially offset by the quality of the management and its great reputation. More on this at the end of the video. Then I checked for consistency. They show consistent earnings growth, consistent low debt, with the exception of 2020, which is still something I have to figure out why, but still low compared to current assets and would be easily covered by free cash flow. They have consistent, sustainable growth of R&D and CapEx financed by operating cash flows, which is essential in this industry and has been deployed far more efficiently when compared to their competitors. Looking at the difference between Form Factor and Technoprobe, the Italian company is spending less money to build better products. According to the latest annual report in 2020, Technoprobe has spent almost 9 million euros as a percentage of revenue, which makes R&D expenses at 6%, whereas Form Factor spent 89 million and 12% as R&D as percentage of revenue. And finally, consistent profitability with a slight decline due to overall market downturn. Now looking at the income statement, I see consistent net income growth, consistent gross margins around 60%, which is a sign of scalability of the business, net margins of 26% plus, SG&A as a percentage of gross profit is very low, and interest expenses are negative, which is very good. Now going into the balance sheet, there is a steady growth in retained earnings with high capital efficiency, which adds tons of value to shareholders. They have an ROE of 27.9%, which is very impressive, I must say, which is higher than the ROE of their main competitor at 6.3%. RONTA, or Return on Net Tangible Assets, is also way higher than the overall industry and Form Factor. They have a healthy cash and cash equivalents, as well as inventory and net receivables. Well, now that I've presented a bunch of numbers for you to analyze on your own, I want to delve into the part of the thesis that I consider most important, its qualitative side, mode and destination analysis. Why is this business so great? First and foremost, we need to understand what a probe card is. A probe card is like a specialized tool used to test computer chips while they're still on a large silicon wafer. It checks if the chips are functioning correctly before they are cut into separate pieces and placed in devices like phones or computers. The probe card delicately touches the chips to determine if they're working fine, serving as tiny quality control check. So far so good. It might seem like an inexpensive consumable. However, probe cards are highly technological due to the complexity of modern chips and their minuscule size. According to Forbes, probe cards can carry as many as 50,000 metal pins, each spaced about 1/600th of an inch apart. Still not convinced? Well, probe cards are tailor-made for each different chip model. This means that Technoprobe designs probe cards in-house, especially for major companies such as Apple, Qualcomm, Samsung and Nvidia, as well as semiconductor manufacturers like AMD, Intel and TSMC. This results in high switching costs due to the significant capital, know-how, patents and time it would require for competitors to design a new probe card for a company they have never worked with. Other significant competitive advantages of being one of the two players in the industry include the limited impact of probe card costs on the pricing of tested products. This doesn't mean they aren't affected by market downturns. Typically, when prices are higher, chip manufacturers increase production, leading to more probe cards being used. This, however, offers a natural safety net because chip makers can only reduce production by a certain amount, even when demand is low, due to the substantial costs associated with halting a production line. Additionally, they will always require probe cards to test their chips. There are also strict quality requirements, single-use nature of the probe cards, which can only be used once, making them an essential and costly consumable provided by only two companies, a lengthy approval process, patent-protected engineered products with over 600 patents, and additive manufacturing technology. Starting from scratch is nearly impossible because chips often use similar structures even in newer versions, resulting in an incremental layer-by-layer process of evolution. If a company wasn't involved in the previous model, it's challenging to begin anew. Now, going into management, culture and history. Giuseppe Crippa, the founder of the company, was offered a severance package from the French-Italian semiconductor manufacturer ST Microelectronics in 1995. Crippa accepted it, ending his 35-year career at the firm. However, instead of settling into a life of leisure or retirement, Crippa, then 60, seized the opportunity to start his own company, building on an idea he had been tinkering with for half a dozen years. Crippa established Technoprobe in a small town outside of Milan. The company produced probe cards, miniature needle-studded discs that attached to microchips to test them. For the first 15 years, he primarily sold to his former employer. From the early days, Giuseppe involved his entire family in the business, including his sons, wife, and nephews. Even though he stepped back from day-to-day operations, the second generation now manages the business. This is quite unique because they essentially function as co-founders, having worked alongside Giuseppe since the business' early days. Essentially, they maintain a founder mentality rather than a second-generation mentality. The family still owns 75% of the business and has financed growth by reinvesting profits. This approach has resulted in minimal dilution and a robust balance sheet. In terms of culture, they appear to promote engaging activities and invest significantly in the well-being of regular employees. You can even watch a YouTube video that they show how they financed a small team of employees to bike through the Stelvio hill, which is one of the biggest hills in the Giro d'Italia. This is what the CEO of their main competitor had to say about them. This is a very small industry. We know the Kripa family quite well, says Mike Slessor, CEO of Form Factor. We want to ensure that our competitive spirit remains strong, but what they've achieved with a privately owned family company is truly impressive. Acknowledging that the industry essentially operates as a virtual duopoly, they possess a product that can rival ours, though sometimes small details can make a difference. However, there's more than enough demand to drive both firms forward. The CEO points to the increasing complexity of vehicles, complete with tablets and touchscreens, as one of the many factors contributing to the industry's growth. Modern cars now incorporate computers and graphic cards, and these chips need testing. This translates to increased business for us. Well, now this raises an interesting question. How do they achieve such good margins when they are in a duopoly, while their main competitor makes single-digit returns? Well, I found about 5 reasons for this, and I have a 6th one which is more of a speculation. Where the first one is that they have advanced micro-machining. The second one is that they have 3D MEMS, thanks to the acquisition of Microfabrica, a leader in 3D metallic MEMS production. The third one is that they have a better product mix. The fourth one is that they have an integrated cost-based approach. And fifth, cutting-edge technology in thin film. I would also add that their vertical integration strategy is very favorable to their margins. Now, speaking of acquisitions, they have been astute with acquisitions so far, financing them 100% with cash. This approach might be suboptimal, depending on your perspective, but I appreciate it. They recently acquired Harbor Electronics, which specializes in highly specialized printed circuit boards, PCBs, for the semiconductor industry. Technoprobe were significant customers of Harbor, as PCBs are items they purchase in large quantities. This acquisition will help Technoprobe gain greater control over its supply chain, reduce costs since PCB will now be produced in-house, and in simpler terms, exercise some level of influence over its competitors, given that Harbor supplies the broader industry. This move is strategic. According to management, this acquisition won't dramatically impact revenue growth and is largely a long-term play. Now, going into the most important side of an assessment of a business is going into the risks. The most significant risks, in my view, include the possibility of 1. Internal power struggles, 2. Capital misallocation, 3. Excessive focus on short-term performance in early earnings call, 4. Over-reliance on guidance, and 5th, the recent IPO. Now, going into catalysts, I see 5 main catalysts. First one, a virtual duopoly. Second one, strong financial position. Third one, industry consolidation and growth trends related to AI, data centers, automotive, PC and mobile expansion. Fourth, untapped memory market, entry planned for 2024. And fifth, geographical location, being based in Europe, positioning them to benefit from the European Chips Act. Now, the most exciting part, valuation. I'm not comfortable using a discounted cash flow model in this case, so I employed a reverse discounted cash flow model. This is because I'm not confident in my ability to accurately predict their future growth beyond recognizing its substantial potential. So, they would need to grow free cash flow at a compounded annual growth rate of 14.2%, over the next 10 years and then maintain a growth rate of at least 3.5% in perpetuity, which is below the industry's compounded annual growth rate, and this is challenging yet attainable, considering their history of achieving compounded annual growth rates of 23.7% in earnings and similar figures in terms of free cash flow. In conclusion, I believe this is the kind of business that justifies a premium valuation, given their growth stage and overall business quality. I find the assumed valuation reasonable. Before finishing this video, I want to say feedback is highly appreciated. I'm always open to changing my perspective and updating my thesis when presented with relevant arguments or facts. Your insights are valuable in refining my understanding of this business and its potential. Stay tuned so you don't miss out in any other exciting analysis. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out any future content, and I can't wait to see you all in our next financial expedition. Happy investing, everyone!